In this video, I want to talk about some updates we have for Black Ops 6 Zombies Season 6. Because obviously Reckoning has just released, and if you've completed all of the Easter eggs in the game, currently there is no Super Easter egg. So now, all we can really assume is, if there is a Super Easter egg coming, it's probably going to be coming in Season 6. And we have some other updates as well regarding potentially the Classic mode finally releasing, and a couple more tidbits, as well as the DLC 5. So first of all, regarding the release date, apparently it's going to be releasing on October 8th or October 9th, which is a bit of a later release date, but it does align with, for example, Cold War, and it makes sense because Black Ops 7 is going to be releasing a bit later than usual, apparently on the 14th of November, which I think is good because Treyarch have been working on 2 Black Ops games back to back. They probably just need that slight extra time to polish the game because they've probably been scrambling, trying to get it ready in time whilst trying to support Black Ops 6 simultaneously, which probably would explain why I think that the Black Ops 6 Zombies ending is so lackluster. But let's talk about the Super Easter egg. So as you know, there was a feedback session a month or so ago in which people were discussing about the Super Easter egg with Treyarch, and apparently someone in the group suggested that it would be good to have a special camo reward as a Super Easter egg bonus. Now this is not something that Treyarch suggested, but apparently the people who were carrying out this feedback event did note it down for Treyarch to take account of. So it wouldn't surprise me if that does end up being the case, but as you know, a lot of people misinterpreted this at the time and they thought this is going to be the only Super Easter egg reward for the game, but Detonated came out and clarified that this was just something noted, so it's not really any indication on these being all of the rewards to receive. But in terms of the Super Easter egg itself, I'm honestly not expecting anything that huge for the game because, like I said, they are doing Black Ops 6 and 7 simultaneously, and it wouldn't surprise me if a big Super Easter egg is being saved for the end of Black Ops 7. I think it would actually be really cool if we had a cross-game Super Easter egg, considering it's kind of going to feel like DLC for Black Ops 6 anyways, with having 2 games back to back. What if you complete all of the Easter eggs over both games and you get a load of crazy rewards? Because hopefully by the ending of Black Ops 7 Zombies, Treyarch are not then rushed onto some other Zombies project last second, although it wouldn't surprise me if they were, considering Modern Warfare and Vanguard Zombies, but hopefully then they can provide something adequate in terms of the Super Easter egg. And I really don't think anything major is coming for the Super Easter egg because the different YouTubers did ask about it at the Reckoning Treyarch interview, and basically Treyarch said they don't have anything to comment on right now regarding the Super Easter egg, and they basically just teased the original characters returning at the end of Reckoning because they said, you know, basically wait for the ending, it will indicate where we are going next, which is obviously what's going to be happening in Black Ops 7 Zombies with the OG crew back. With the fact that they were basically just teasing Black Ops 7 when they were asked about the Super Easter egg really indicates that that's going to be the next major thing. I still think there will be some kind of Super Easter egg, but I don't think it is going to be anything that major, to be honest. I would love to be pleasantly surprised, but like I said, I think anything major Super Easter egg wise is probably going to be saved for Black Ops 7. But this brings me on to the second thing. There's been more DLC 5 rumors lately. So as you know, the Ghost of Hope reported in the past that apparently there would be 5 DLC maps. But then when Treyarch came out and announced Reckoning, they said it was the finale, the closing chapter of the Black Ops 6 Zombies story, basically confirming in a way that it's the final map. But then recently, Alix and some other leakers have been coming out and saying that there is apparently a DLC 5 still in the files, and this seems so contradictory towards Treyarch's quote. I do feel like they're probably misinterpreting something. For example, it could just be a reskin of a prior map like we had the Jingle Hell's version of Liberty Falls, because as you know, Season 6 is going to be the Haunting event since it's in October, so we're going to have a good Halloween-themed event, you know, the month leading up to Black Ops 7, which I think should be awesome. So maybe they're going to update one or more maps to have a Halloween aesthetic for the special mode that they release. Obviously, the one we had in Cold War was really, really great because Jingle Hell's Liberty Falls is defined as its own map in the files of the game, so I think that could be why they are misinterpreting this DLC 5, because Jingle Hell's is appearing as DLC 1 in the files, so maybe it's just going to be a reskin map. Another thing people have been speculating about is maybe it's just going to be like a small bonus map, like a little survival map, not Nagda Untoten, but something small like Nagda Untoten. You know, obviously in Grief or even in the Starting Room Challenge, we are able to play on just small sections of the map, and I think it would be awesome for Treyarch to section off different areas of the maps and those Grief zones as just their own survival maps. I think that would be awesome, but I don't know if Treyarch are going to be able to do that. I do think it would be great as a Super Easter egg reward. This is what people have been speculating as well. Maybe there's going to be like a small little bonus survival map that you get for completing the Super Easter egg, but honestly, I just don't see it really. I think that if there was going to be something extra, a little bonus, Treyarch would have implied as such when they were asked about it, instead of leaving us in the dark. back, because the zombies community is not gelling well right now because they don't think a substantial super Easter egg is coming. So if Treyarch do know they have something planned, then they would say, and they probably would have worded when they said Reckoning is the finale differently, because yes, it could still be the finale, but if there's a small little bonus map extra, I think they would and should have implied as such, just because they've been getting lots of backlash because people were expecting 5 or 6 DLC maps based on the rumors, and because they were releasing a map every single season until Reckoning, of course. So that is why people were thinking that we would probably be getting more maps. But this brings me on to the final rumor. Apparently, Season 6 will be featuring a classic mode. Now, obviously, these are all rumors in this video, so take everything with a grain of salt. Could be subject to change and/or misinformation/misinterpretation. Of course, you know the drill. As you know, before even Black Ops 6 released, from the beta of the game, we were already getting leaks about zombie stuff. All of the DLC maps were found in the Steam strings, and Grief and a classic mode were found in the files. And this led people to think, you know, we would be getting a classic mode either on release or a lot sooner to release, but so far we've not heard anything. But Grief has released, which implies that Treyarch are working on a classic mode and it is going to release at some point, but we just don't know if it's going to release in Black Ops 6 or 7 because Treyarch have been working on these games back to back. But it could potentially be in both games. But with the original characters returning in Black Ops 7, it would make sense to launch it with Black Ops 7, going to more traditional features for zombies, considering the OG crew are back. But at the same time, Treyarch seem to not have much planned for Season 6. So if they are going to be doing a haunting event or some other thing, I think a classic mode makes sense to release in Season 6 to fill out that season like Season 4 was filled out with Grief in between the main map releases. And I think a classic mode would be the thing to get us by until Black Ops 7. However, it wouldn't surprise me if the classic mode for Black Ops 6 is just a basic version, but maybe we get a more authentic version and a more substantial version and a version that Treyarch put more dev time into in Black Ops 7. Because like I said, they need a selling factor for Black Ops 7, and I think them announcing a classic mode for the game would be great, but if it releases to Black Ops 6 already, it's not going to generate as much new sales for Black Ops 7. But according to reality in the files of the game, the classic mode is apparently going to have separate weapons for war buys and mystery box, the minimap will be hidden, there's going to only be a 4 perk limit, and there's going to be no exfils. Now he says these are not all of the changes, these are just the only ones able to be dissected from the files of the game, so there will definitely be more changes. These are just some very basic things, and apparently the Wonder Fizz is going to be changed for classic mode as well to function like how it did when it was first introduced on Origins, where it will give you a random perk as opposed to you just being able to select one. The worry that I have for classic mode is that Treyarch don't do enough. I think these changes obviously would be reverting the mode to a more classic way. However, if Treyarch don't remove things like armor, or they rebalance the zombie health and rebalance everything, because they're going to have to, you know, especially if they're doing a 4 perk limit, I don't think the classic mode will be successful, because it's not as simple as just switching a few things on and off. If the game is not rebalanced for a classic mode, it's not going to work. For example, in the regular mode, the zombies hit you like crazy. They hit you a lot quicker because the game is not designed for a classic mode. It's not designed for only having 4 perks or not having armor or whatever other changes that could potentially be made for a classic mode. So I could see a classic mode being very underbaked, which I think would be very sad for the community because we've been asking this for a while. So I'm hoping that Treyarch have put adequate dev time into making sure the classic mode is substantial, because I think it will kill a lot of hype if, you know, they finally release it like we've been asking for ages, and then it's underbaked and underwhelming. Which is why, like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if we might get a more basic classic mode in Season 6, but then with Black Ops 7, we might get a more in-depth classic mode that's had more dev time and more authentic with more changes, and is better balanced, because it could have been designed from the ground up for Black Ops 7, whereas it might have been more of a last-second thing for Black Ops 6 to fill up Season 6. But that's everything I wanted to say in this video. Let me know what you think of all of these rumors down below. Like I said, I don't really believe the DLC 5 rumor at all. Maybe we'll get something extra, like a reskin map, or maybe a bonus map. I don't think so. I really don't, to be honest. But I do think the classic mode will probably release, but I've got a feeling it's going to be a bit underwhelming. I think we will get some kind of super Easter egg, but again, I think it'll be a bit underwhelming. I think most of the substantial stuff, unfortunately, is going to be saved for Black Ops 7, hopefully when Treyarch are not developing 2 games simultaneously, so they can focus entirely on making sure the post-launch is as substantial as possible, and they're not trying to juggle too much at once and too many cooks in the kitchen, and the content too spread out between the 2 different games. But anyways, thank you for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not for latest and greatest Call of Duty news information. So anyways, thank you for watching, and bye.